The new football horror movie Him is out in theaters, and it's produced by Jordan Peele and directed by Justin Tipping. The reviews on the film are pretty mixed, with critics saying it's a bad movie and some critics saying it's a good movie. But despite that, it debuted on Rotten Tomatoes with a 33%, which, if you don't know, is pretty bad. As of right now, it has a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is even worse. Last night, I went to go see the movie in theaters, and honestly, it's really not that bad. If anything, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a really good movie with a couple issues. Is it the worst movie of the year? Definitely not. Is it the most disappointing? I would say so. I do think there are a couple issues that just hold this film back that could have easily been fixed. So in this video, I'm going to give an honest review, a spoiler-free review, so do not worry if you're intending to go see the movie, which I do think you should do. I'm not going to give any spoilers. There's really nothing to spoil, but no spoilers for me. Other than that, let's get into the video. Him is a 2025 horror film directed by Justin Tipping, starring Tyreek Withers as a talented quarterback, Cameron Cade, who suffers a career-threatening injury just before the professional draft. He is invited by legendary QB Isaiah White, who is played by Marlon Wayans, to his remote compound for intense training, which quickly dissolves into psychological torture and dark rituals at a private compound. The film uses horror for many different reasons, like for masculinity, cost of fame in sports, sacrifices for greatness, and celebrity obsession. Him is mostly praised for Marlon Wayans' performance and the visuals. Now, if I were to rate this out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 3.5. This was possibly my most anticipated film of the year. I think just taking football and putting it into a horror movie, that's just so creative and it sounds so cool. But I will say I was a little disappointed. I do think there could have been way more added to the film. Everyone gives an amazing performance. Tyreek Withers stands out in the film, and I really think he's going to be the next big thing. Marlon Wayans proves that he has range, and I've been saying it for years, that he needs to be casted in way more serious roles, because that dude can act his ass off. Julia Fox also gives an amazing performance as Isaiah White's wife, and she really also stands out in the film. She's not in the film too much, she is in a couple scenes, but the scenes that she's in, she stands out. But before we get into the positives, I do want to get into the negatives. There are a couple negatives with this film, and I think everyone's probably going to have these problems. I do have 4 main problems with the film, and one of them is just with marketing. Other than that, the main 3 I will talk about a lot. My first big problem is the second act. The second act felt a little weak, and honestly, after the first act, which was phenomenal, everything just got a little repetitive, and it felt like I was just watching the same thing over and over and over and over. There was nothing really revealed in the second act where it was really that crazy. I really can't even talk about the second act because there's not that much. There's no full breakdown or sit-down conversation with Cameron Cade and Isaiah White. They have like 2-3 conversations in the film, which they're really just talking about football, family, and that's really it. I think there could have been way more added to Marlon Wayans' character, maybe even a little more backstory. The film takes place in the span of a week, I'm pretty sure. Again, not that much is uncovered until really the end of the film, which I think the second act, there should have been something where it leads to the big reveal at the end, but instead, the ending just reveals everything. Overall, to put it in short words, the second act was very weak. There's not that much that happens in the second act. He just goes to training camp and just all you see is a training monologue, which the training monologue is pretty cool, but you see the same thing in the first act and it's just repeated in the second act. My second big problem with the movie is the pacing. I think the pacing was just way too fast. It's just a scene after another scene after another scene. Each scene is probably I'd say like less than a minute. The movie is an hour and 30 minutes long, which is pretty long for I think a horror movie, but it ends like in a second. It feels like that's really just it. The pacing is way too fast. There's not a moment where it just slows down and you're just having a full sit down conversation with Cameron Cade and Isaiah White, and they're discussing maybe what's happening here. You don't really get any of that. Like I said, you do see some conversations between the two, but it's really just conversations about like, they're on YouTube. You can find the clips on YouTube. I'm pretty sure they released the official clips, and it's just where he's saying, I used to put God, family, football, but for me it's family, football, God. And that's really the only conversation where anything really happens. Other than that, you just see him screaming in his face and telling him to lock in and asking him, what are you willing to sacrifice? Like I said, there's no full breakdown or full deep dive into anything. Overall, to summarize this problem, it's that there's just too much going on where the pacing does not slow down at all, and it just gets faster and faster and faster. My third problem, which I'm pretty sure everyone has this problem, is the horror aspect of this film. Well, not really the horror aspect, just that there's not too much horror in this film, and it's more just blood and guts. Other than that, I do get, though, it is a psychological thriller, which I do understand there's not too much horror in psychological thrillers. So this problem really isn't that big of a problem, but it's still one of my problems. I think I was so anticipated that this was going to be scary, where there was really not too much scary things in this. My last problem with the film is the ending, and again, I think the ending just felt so rushed. It was kind of shocking, but just it felt so rushed, and it felt like it was just like oh, here you go, here's everything that happened in the film, and this is just what you've been waiting for the whole time, and boom, it's over. There's really not that much that happens, and that's when you walk out of the film and you're like, damn, like that's really it, like there's nothing else. But I think the biggest problem is the marketing. If you don't know, or if you haven't been on the internet for the past couple months, Him was marketed as a Jordan Peele film, which, if you don't know, that is a pretty bad thing, because this is not a Jordan Peele film. It is a Jordan Peele produced film, which, if you don't know the difference between a producer and a director, I'll tell you. To put it in a simple term, a producer is pretty much just a person who gets the movie up and lifting from the ground, who is in charge of the budgeting, the casting, mainly the marketing. The whole business idea of the film is what the producer is in charge for. And the director, in simple terms, is the maker of the film. Director's job is to tell what the actors, what they need to do, how they need to play the character, how to play the character in a specific scene, how to do this and how to do that. The producer, again, just gets the project up and lifting from the ground, gets the budgeting, gets the casting, and boom, that's just a producer. And I know a lot of people who just watch Jordan Peele films, which I don't blame them. Jordan Peele has some outstanding films like Get Out, Nope, which are just two to name. Those two are outstanding, and I love those films. But marketing this as a Jordan Peele film, I always felt is so disrespectful to Justin Tipping, who directed this film, because people who are going into the theaters and expecting to see a new Jordan Peele film are gonna be kind of disappointed. Now, are there some aspects of a Jordan Peele film in this movie? I'd say so, but I think that's just the aspects of a psychological horror. I think that's kind of what Jordan Peele makes is psychological horror films, which he's mainly known for. But people are going to be disappointed, because when they find out that this is not a Jordan Peele film, they're just going to be like, oh damn, so I just went to the theater to see nothing. Which, if you just watch Jordan Peele films, I'm not going to say anything. His films are phenomenal. But again, marketing this as a Jordan Peele film is the stupidest thing you can do. Because I get it, you can make money off of that, but at the end of the day, if the movie isn't that good, people are going to walk out so disappointed. Other than that, let's get into the positives, which there are a couple positives, and that's why I gave this film a 3.5 stars, because of those positives. Before we get into the positives though, I do want to say, if you want to add me on Letterboxd, my username is right here. The link is in my bio, so go to the bio, add me on Letterboxd, I'll add you back. But the first positive with this film is the performances of Julia Fox, Tyreek Withers, and Marlon Wayans. First, I want to get into Tyreek Withers, who plays Cameron Cade, pretty much the main character of this film. Tyreek Withers gives a hell of a performance, and I really, like I said, I do think he's going to be the next big thing in Hollywood. I want to see him in more roles, and I really think he was amazing in this movie. I don't understand how people said they were holding him back. I do think he played the character to the fullest. He gives a really, really good performance, like I said, alongside with Marlon Wayans. I think those two, they just connect somehow, and putting them together, whoever thought about that, you are a genius, because both of them just give a hell of a performance. And I really think it just seems they give that chemistry of a young football player and a old football coach, and they pull off the roles so well. Secondly, I want to talk about Marlon Wayans, who plays Isaiah White, the legendary quarterback who Cameron Cade looks up to. Everyone knows who Marlon Wayans is. If you don't, go ask your mom, go ask your dad. They know who Marlon Wayans is. He was in a bunch of movies. You've probably seen him in a movie before. He was in White Chicks. He was in Scary Movie. He's in a bunch of comedic movies, but I don't think he's ever had a serious role like this one. He does have some comedic scenes in this film, but not that many. He proves that he has range, and I've been saying it for a while, that this dude has range, and he needs more roles in Hollywood where he can prove himself. And in this movie, I think he did. Everyone is talking about Marlon Wayans' performance. All the critics are saying he deserves to win an award for the performance, because he just proves that he's an amazing actor, and I want to see more of him in more serious roles just like this. Lastly, I want to talk about Julia. Julia Fox plays Elsie White, the wife of Isaiah White, and she plays the role really, really well. She kind of plays like a predatory wife, and she plays the role so well. She also does sell her soul in the movie, just like her husband, and she's always actually the one who takes Cameron Cade to those dark rituals and tells him about the rituals. She was amazing in this film. She's an amazing actress. She has always been an amazing actress, and I want to see more of her, and she just proves that she's an amazing actress in this film. And like I said, I want to see more of her. I want to see her play more roles just like this one. She can pull it off. She also has range. The main three characters in this film, Elsie White, Isaiah White, and Cameron Cade, all three are played well, and they stand out in this film so much that when you go see the movie, you're gonna love their performances just like I did. My second positive about this film is the first act. The first act of this film is phenomenal. It really carries the movie for me. I think after the first act, it does kind of just go downhill. But there are still moments in the second and third act that I love. But the first act of the film, I really, really love the first act. Training monologues were amazing. Those were so cool. Cameron Cade is announced pretty early too. The first scene you see of Cameron Cade is in one of the trailers as a kid. You see him watching Isaiah White in, I'm pretty sure it was a Super Bowl. That scene was amazing too. The first act of the film, like I said, it's phenomenal, and I love it. I mean, I could just watch the whole first act of the film, and I don't even need to watch the rest of it, and that really just carries it for me. I think everyone was interested by the first act, and everyone loved the first act. The soundtrack is amazing, the visuals are amazing, and yeah, I could just watch the whole first act of the film, and that's probably my main highlight of the film, is the whole first act. My third positive are the visuals. I love the visuals in this film. watching it in the theaters, it will hit different, and it's just such a beautiful film. You see just a bunch of beautiful stuff come into play. You also see some horror aspects come in there too, where you see the dark alleyways, you see the dark tunnels and everything. Those scenes are pretty phenomenal, and there are just some beautiful scenes in the movie. Some of my favorite scenes are the X-ray scenes. Justin Tipping takes the horror and puts it into a X-ray where you see the players' full skull and everything, and when you see the skull, blood would be pouring down, and it's really just cool to see, and that's really creative to see how they did that. I think that's one of my favorite parts of the film. If I were to have one more positive, it would be the horror aspects of the film. Now, I know I did say there's not that much horror in this film, but the aspects of the film that are used by horror is amazing. The whole religious aspect, the whole football aspect, the whole family aspect, the whole aspect of what are you willing to sacrifice to become great. I think all of those are just played phenomenal and done perfectly. I do think the aspect of what are you willing to sacrifice to become great is the best thing about the movie, because they do put Cameron Cade through a lot. They put him through testing, they put him through this campaign where he has to go through all of this training, and it's not your ordinary football training. I think any football player out there, if you really like football, I suggest you go see this film, but it is pretty brutal, and I do think that aspect of what are you willing to sacrifice to become great, like I said, it's phenomenal. For different aspects, like I said earlier, for masculinity, it shows masculinity pretty well. There's a whole scene where they're taking pictures for sports magazines and all that, and you see it right there, played right there. You also see it played pretty early in the film and used pretty early in the film, and I think how they show it is phenomenal. But other than that, I don't really have any other positives that I can really think about. Like I said, I do think this is the most disappointing movie of the year, just because my anticipations for the film were so high. The first trailer dropped back in April, and when I watched that trailer, I was just like, holy shit, like this is phenomenal, and I want to go see this in theaters. And I did see it, and I loved it. It's a 3.5 stars. I think what makes it the 3.5 stars is the visuals, the performance, the first act, and the enjoyability of the film. You enjoy the film a lot, but story-wise, it's just there could have done way more with the story, and I don't think there was enough done with the story that when you walk out of the film, you're just gonna, like I said, you're just gonna be like, that's really just it. I wish there was more. And yeah, I do feel like stuff was cut from the film potentially, but other than that, it's an okay film. I think if you're a big football fan, I think if you're a big psychological horror film fan, psychological thriller, you should definitely go see this film. There are some Jordan Peele aspects of the film, like if you watch him and you watch this movie, you do kind of see some resemblance with Jordan Peele. Other than that, that's really just a review. Like I said, 3.5 stars. I recommend go seeing it in theaters. You might like it, you might not like it, but other than that, I do want to talk about the biggest thing that you should get out of this review, and that's that you should always form your own opinion. Never ever listen to critics, never ever listen to Rotten Tomatoes. I understand if the movies may be like, if it's like Morbius and there's not a single good review, then yeah, definitely don't go see that movie. If it's World at War, I think that's what the movie's called, that was released recently, the new Ice Cube film, where there's not a single good review of a film, don't go see it. Of course don't go see it, unless if you want to have a good laugh, then I guess go see it. But films like this, where it's mixed reviews, by some people saying it's an amazing film, by some people saying it's a really bad film, you should go see it and form your own opinion. One thing I've always held to myself is never trust Rotten Tomatoes, never trust IGN, never trust IMDb, never trust any of that, and I need to go form my own opinion. I watched this film last night, I enjoyed it. Is it rewatch worthy? Probably not. I'm probably never going to rewatch this film. But other than that, I do recommend you go see it and form your own opinion on this movie. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's video. If you want to see more videos like this, if you want to see more reviews, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell so you never, ever, ever miss a post. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your review on him. Follow my other socials. Follow my TikTok. Follow my Instagram. Follow me on Letterboxd, and I'll follow you back. And yeah, let's go to the theaters and form our own opinions. I'll see you guys some other time. Peace.